with today's LinkedIn Loving, I'm really delighted to be joined by Deborah Ogden, who is a personal impact, or personal brand and impact expert even. And she's going to be sharing with us her top tips on personal branding and the impact it can have on LinkedIn. So welcome, Deborah. Thank you so much for joining me today. So
Thank you, Judy.
If you're wondering what the heck is a LinkedIn Loving, well, there are short, bite-sized LinkedIn learnings over lunch, and they're designed to shine a spotlight on the world's leading B2B social media platform, LinkedIn, of course. So every month, I'm joined by a guest expert who shares their expertise and how it can help you really get the most out of LinkedIn. So when it comes to personal branding, it's no exception. It's one of the reasons I'm super excited that Deborah is here today, because what I find is that one of the most common challenges people have is that they worry about what to say on LinkedIn, what to post, how they might come across. But having had a chat with Deborah, what she's told me is that by developing our personal brand, which is the thing that people remember us by, helps to really increase our confidence and impact on LinkedIn. So, Deborah, super excited, as I say. Maybe we should start with actually what is personal branding?
Okay, well, lovely to be here, Judy. And I think I put in one of the comments, I think it's just such a great matchup, personal branding and LinkedIn. It's a really good combo, isn't it? I think they both support each other so well. And personal branding, I've just been on another podcast and I was saying that I've set up the business 11 years ago, and I think I've had more interest in personal brand and visibility in the last 12 months than I had in the previous 10 years, because there's this understanding of how important it is to be visible and to be known for something, to show up. And people tend to think of personal branding, I think, there is more of an understanding. When I set up 11 years ago, you didn't call it personal brand, you talked about reputation and profile. But there's this misconception, I think, that personal branding is just for Instagram influencers, or it's about your photograph, or it's about what you wear. And it's all of those things, but not just one of them. And for me, you'll have heard this before, but Jeff Bezos of Amazon says, your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And for me, that, there isn't a better quote about personal branding, because actually it's people's experience when they're in your world. So there are many LinkedIn experts out there, but why do I work with Judy? Because Judy is a great connection for me, for her values, but her expertise. And the importance of personal branding is to be able to articulate that so that you can connect with your ideal audience and they know where to find you.
That's amazing. I really love that. I think it's, maybe people don't really think of it as personal branding and things like that, but it's really good to really get a clear idea of what that is and how it helps you stand out. So, are there misconceptions around actually what personal branding is?
Yeah, I often hear people when they're talking about, my background's marketing and communications. And when people are talking about business brands, they often think of the logo. And of course, that is a huge part of a business brand because, we're very visual individuals. And it's the same with your personal brand. So a lot of people will think that it's what you wear, it's just how you dress. Now, that isn't, that's very one-dimensional. Yes, it is a part of a bigger picture, but the visual makes up what's the word I'm looking for, is a part of a much bigger a bigger picture. So how you dress, but it's also how you speak, your non-verbal communication, it's your energy, it's your attitude, it's how you walk in a room, it's your behaviors, the list goes on and on.
It's
And
how I
I think
panic
that
when the tech doesn't work.
absolutely. but it's how you respond to that, and you still show up. So it's how people experience you. And I always say it's not rocket science. It's simple, but it's not easy, because it needs a certain degree of self-awareness. And I believe that when the pitfalls really come in, are when people don't have that self-awareness, so they don't realize the impact that they are having on other people. Because the truth is that we have a personal brand that's in our head. That's the one that we think we are projecting. But then there's the personal brand that's out there. And that's the one that matters. So perception is absolutely key. So it doesn't actually matter how I think I come across. Actually, the real crux of it is, how do people receive and perceive me out there in the real world? What's their experience? And the real challenge is when there is a disconnect. So if you get somebody who is maybe incredibly shy, but they don't realize that that introversion and shyness and lack of connection is actually causing people to think that they're standoffish and maybe disinterested. And I've had this a lot. So a huge degree of self-awareness, but also people believe that it's, well, I don't think as much as it was, but in the past, people think it's a nice to have. The truth is, you have a personal brand, whether you realize it or not. So that's key. It's whether you're managing it. And if you're not managing it, you're leaving it to chance. So you want to make sure that you have clarity on what you want people to say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah, so you're more in control of it. So you need to know, like I would, how do I know what my personal brand is? And then, or I need to decide what that personal brand is. And then I need to control it. And that's what I put out onto LinkedIn, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I talk about 3 areas. I call it my impact method, and it's very easy. It's 3 C's. So it's clarity. So you need to have clarity on your message and clarity on your audience. So we know that we're a business audience. So LinkedIn is the place that our audience will be. So clarity is key. And then clarity of your message. So what do you want that audience to know about you? What do you want to be seen the expert in? What do you want to be? I talk about being the front of mind person. So, for example, there are many graphic designers out there, and people might not need a graphic designer at the moment, but 6 months down the line, they decide to have a rebrand and a refresh, and it's being the front of mind person when that customer, that potential customer, needs what it is that you offer. So you need clarity of that, so that you're constantly sharing content and engaging, all the things that you talk about, Judy, engaging and building those relationships. And then you communicate that, and then you capitalize on it. So you build on that and you choose the platforms, so LinkedIn, and capitalize on that brand.
That is so interesting. So that's exactly what I say on LinkedIn. What is it you want people to think, know, and feel about you? So that's essentially what you're saying. And I can, for me, I can see totally how that now relates to LinkedIn. You have to understand what your brand is and what you want to stand for, and making sure that you communicate it and put it out there on LinkedIn, because we're talking about LinkedIn, but I guess anywhere, like when you're speaking or in any type of marketing activity.
Yeah. And also, I mean, again, the crux of this can be if you're not doing it. So by not doing anything, that's giving out a message as well. And I think people forget this sometimes. We tend to think about what we're putting out there. And I'm sure you hear this. I heard this last night on my Impact Club calls. People say, I'm nervous putting content out there. I write this fabulous content, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, the sort of things that we can communicate. But I write this content, and then my finger hovers over the button and I think, shall I press it? Shall I press it? And, you know, that little voice in our head, you know, starts, I call it Horace. Horace starts jumping up and down
Horror, I
saying,
love that.
why would anybody listen to you? Why are they going to listen to you? Why do you think, you know, all these crazy things
Yeah,
we
who
tell
do you think
ourselves.
you are? Yeah.
Who do you think you are? Absolutely. So, yeah, but by not posting, then it's a little bit like, I was talking to somebody yesterday and I said sometimes, you know, you get to the point with a business that your diary becomes so busy that you don't have time to network quite the same. But there are some events that I will go to and I think I can't not be there because you need to be seen to be at them. And it's the same on LinkedIn, I would say.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's consistency is absolutely key, and being out there and being visible. So, what do you think? Should we have a look at some practical steps then? Where would somebody start with working out what their personal brand is? And then we need to relate it to LinkedIn, and maybe I think you mentioned to me a couple of some really good examples, and maybe I can have a go at sharing the screen and see if we can have a look at why they're good examples. But let's start with where should
Okay.
we start?
Where should we start? Okay. Well, you need to have that clarity. Well, first of all, you need to have clarity of your outcome. So, why are you doing this? And for most people, it's about raising awareness. My big belief, I know it's yours, is it's not about selling. We're not on LinkedIn to sell. We're on LinkedIn to raise awareness. We're on LinkedIn to build relationships, to build engagement. And the key for me in all this is it's social media. So it's about interaction, and therefore it's about knowing why you're there. So it's about building profile. I call it wallpaper marketing. So it's that it's that marketing that you're always there in the background and people might just be engaging with you on a superficial level, but they're building trust with you because they're liking your content, they're hearing what you've got to say, they're maybe buying into your values, they're buying into your personality. That's a challenge that I hear an awful lot, that people feel that they have to make it very professional on LinkedIn because it can be quite judgy at times, let's face it, and people feel that they have to leave their personality behind. And I often say,
Very
you know,
true, yeah.
how are you going to stand out? Because, you know, I'll look the same as every other personal brand expert if I don't show up with my personality and who I am, because your personal brand is what you do, but it's who you are and how you do it. So it's having clarity on those things, and that might be by getting feedback from people. So finding out how you come across. Three really great questions. Yeah. So three really great questions are, uh, what should I continue doing? So what am I really good at? What should I stop doing? What isn't great for my personal brand and impact? And what do I need to start doing to
Wow.
improve my personal brand and impact? And by asking a number of people, I usually say ask about 10 people. When I'm coaching people, I do this for them and we go through a full report and get that feedback. But people can do it themselves. And then look for the themes that come up. Themes will come up. And 95% of the feedback will be fantastic and it's super, you know, great content, love seeing your stories about your puppy, whatever it may be. But then there might just be 3% that's actually, you could do this better, you could be more consistent. And it's that 3% that I call the gold dust, because
Oh,
when we know that, we have that awareness, we can do something about it. We can choose to ignore it, or we can choose to say, okay, this is an area for development. I need to do something about that. And that's the magic, because that's when we unlock our potential.
do you know, I absolutely love that. And I feel really tempted with everybody who's here with us today to actually throw down the gauntlet and let's see if we can all answer those three questions and see if we can develop our brand. Because, you know, you said those questions that I don't think I've ever gone through and asked those questions. I think I've done what most business owners have done and got a little bit of branding and logos and stuff, but I've never thought, what do people see or perceive of me? And I think those are fantastic questions. So this is all well and good. So because we want to relate this to LinkedIn, I guess, once somebody's confident about, or they have the answers to those questions, how does that mean that they can then increase their impact on LinkedIn, would you say?
So the important thing about your brand is communicating it. And you have to communicate it consistently. So there's no point you sitting there in your office and being the world's best kept secret. And this is what I find from a lot of clients, that they have amazing talent, they have fabulous services to offer, a great product, and they're sat there and there are people out there that aren't as good as them, but they are communicating it effectively. So if you've got the two, you've got the talent and you're communicating, that's where you're going to fly. So it's about recognizing that being good at what you do isn't enough. You've got to be able to communicate that so people know about you. You can't be the world's best kept secret. And that's the same for people if you're a business owner and you are looking for new clients, as well as if you are within an organization and looking to progress your career, if you're looking to be promoted. And I often share the story, a contact of mine, she was in learning and development for a global law firm, and her big passion was around diversity and inclusion. And whenever the opportunity came up to speak on diversity and inclusion or host projects or host events, then she would put her name forward. She would write blogs on it. She would comment on it. So when that global law firm wanted a UK diversity officer, guess who they went to? And all of a sudden she was approached for her dream role that she didn't, I mean, she did interview for it, but she didn't even have to apply for the job. So be known for something. And I think that's something that I was talking to somebody at weekend, actually, and I was saying, there are many business coaches out there, and we might have lots of skills. So, for example, I can offer media training, presentation skills, and it all sits within my personal brand and impact umbrella. But I don't talk about those as such on LinkedIn because I want to be known for personal branding and impact. So I tend to think of LinkedIn as your shop window. So if that's your shop window, that's the services you want to be known for. It doesn't mean you can't offer those other services, but they supplement those offices that are in the shop window that you really want to be the expert in. And that means that people will refer and recommend your ideal client because they know exactly what it is that you stand for.
I absolutely love that. That's, for me, it's hit the nail on the head. And I've always said that LinkedIn can do the selling for you, and I guess that's what I've always meant, because you're out there consistently talking about what it is that you do. People who are looking for what it is that you do can see what it is that you do, and when they're ready, they come to you because you're already top of their supplier list, and they want to. And I had a client of mine who had exactly the same thing, that he got contacted by a company. He didn't know who they were, which happens a lot. How many times do you hear people saying, "Oh, this person's been following me and I had no idea"? And my client went in to have a meeting with them. They knew exactly what he did. They knew exactly what they wanted and how he could help. And they just wanted to know when he could start. And he walked away with a 30K contract. And that's from not even knowing who he was. And it just shows you how powerful this actually is. And I guess I didn't realize that I was actually talking about it as personal branding, but from what you're saying, it's just resonating so loudly as to that's what it is. We need to be able to communicate that consistently. Fantastic.
And I think something that you've told me before, Judy, is the rise, and I think it's here to stay, is video. And the reason that video on social media is so powerful is that we get an essence of the person, we get their energy, we get their personality, or most of the time. And a really lovely example of that during nearly 2 years ago now, as we went into lockdown, I had a couple of days that were absolutely horrendous as I saw my diary cancelled one event after another. And I had my little pity party for sort of 24 hours. And then I thought, okay, Deborah, what can you do about this? And I started to share 2-minute videos called On Brand Bite Size. And they were just 2-minute videos every day. I didn't feel comfortable at that time selling, but I knew that I had something that could support people and help people as we went onto this online platform, into this online world. And so I shared these 2-minute videos that helped me, because it got me up in the morning and kept me positive, and shared them on my social media platforms. And then after about 8 weeks, I thought, I am actually going to have to turn this into some kind of commercial offering now. And I set up my online membership, the Impact Club, and I sat there with 10 packs thinking I'll get 10 members, and I got 40 members. And
Wow.
many of those people that signed up were because they were people that had engaged with that free content, and it was never done as a marketing ploy, but it was just giving people a flavour of what it's like in Deborah's world, what it's like to work with Deborah, and it was giving them a flavour of what would come. So I'm a big believer in giving a little bit and share your expertise. You don't need to share it all. I did that in the first place. I used to stand on a stage, share everything, and then wonder why nobody would come to me to pay for me.
Because they've got everything they need. Exactly, yeah. I'm totally with you on there. I do believe that, and hence why I do these LinkedIn Love-ins. These exactly also born out of the lockdown. I did, trainings on how to use LinkedIn, but then I realized there's so much more to LinkedIn than just what I offer. There's the expertise from the likes of yourself and stuff. So I just love how the lockdown has developed for all sorts of people in more positive ways than what we like to think about, isn't it, and stuff. So I'm conscious we've got sort of 10 minutes or so. Usually these are like 10 minutes. We'll see if we've got some questions. If anybody's got any questions on here, I think Michael's got a question on there, but did we want to just go and have a look at some people who you think are doing their personal brand well on LinkedIn? Is that worth going into, Deborah?
We can do. I mean, you put me on the spot a little bit here. I'm trying. I'm thinking. Well, I'll tell you somebody who does it really well. So, and somebody I work with, and she doesn't know I'm going to do this, so I might be in total trouble for raising her profile doing this. But a lady called Rachel Oates. Do you know Rachel?
I do know Rachel Oates, and I was hoping to be organised and maybe have her profile open, but I don't. But I do know Rachel, yes. So I'm going to see if I can find her on LinkedIn and we'll share it, yes.
Because Rachel and I had a conversation about this, and she's been really conscious. So she works for an organ. Judy, this isn't professional, but I'm just going to pull my blind down a little bit, because in that rare way, the sun is coming round, and we're all about being authentic on these things. So I'm just going to pull the blind down a little, because I'm being blinded and I'm conscious that the view's not very good. Just give me a second.
Well, I'm just wondering whether I should share Rachel's profile. Were you looking at Rachel's profile as a good example?
It was more her content. Right. It was more her content.
Let's have a look at Rachel's content then. I mean, I can pop her link into the chat box, I think. Except I can't. Isn't that interesting?
Why don't we just talk about some good examples? That might be a good way of doing it.
In a post afterwards so people can go and have a look. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Another person who does it really well is a good friend of mine who's a marketeer, a lady called Pegg as well. Laura's a marketeer, and it's people that are very generous with their knowledge. So, but they're not just sharing from a technical point of view. They show some of their personality as well. For me, that is the essence of it. So it's about sharing something, and it's a good mix as well. So it might be that they share some content that is technically showing their credibility, so it's building their expertise. So there's that side of it. So that's the what do you do, but then there's the how do you do it and who you are. And there's been quite a lot of controversy, hasn't there? Well, controversy might be a strong word, but a lot of discussion, shall we say, about LinkedIn becoming more like Facebook, because over the pandemic people have shared. What are your thoughts on that, Judy?
Oh, don't get me going on it. I tell you, I could go into a rant here. Yes, LinkedIn has got a lot more personable, which is not a bad thing. I know a lot of people see it as scary and things like that. But you know what really annoys me is you get people who come on and going, I don't care what the LinkedIn police say, and accusing people who have been here a long time of being the LinkedIn police when we're not. And then, you allegedly, then you get other people going on Facebook. It all comes down to your audience. If you want to post, can I say this, shitty little posts with about your swimming pool, or I've seen some posts, and I just think, and you're inviting comments there of certain types of comments, then fine, go for it. It's your personal brand on LinkedIn. What you post, how you show up, is what impression you will make. If your audience loves it, if you get business from it, post it. If you are attracting a different type of audience who are not going to appreciate it, then don't do it. It's all about understanding who your audience is. So I do, I'll try and not get on. I'll just try and get off my soapbox a minute. So it winds me up.
Yeah, it is. It's knowing your audience. And in my media days, when I was a media manager at Old Trafford at the cricket ground, and I always used to have a question in my head before I put anything out: so what? So anything I was going to put out there, I would say, so what? So if you're sharing what you had for your breakfast, so what? What's in it for me as your audience? What am I getting from it? And it's also remembering it's not what you want to share, it's what your audience want to consume. So thinking, what's the outcome? Why am I posting this? What does this say about me? Some of the most engaged posts I've ever had were about, one was I turned up to a lunch, and as I pulled up to the lunch, school rang and said my son had been hit on the head by a pencil, and I had to go in, and this was a really important lunch that I'd been looking forward to, getting in front of some really sort of impressive people for me in my network. And I had to go in and say, I'm really sorry, I can't stay, I've got to go. But I did a piece around values and family, and that's probably the most engagement I've ever had. I also put at the beginning of lockdown that I was presenting from my ironing board. That was my standing desk. Yeah, and there are people that still comment about the ironing board now. So it's just something a little bit quirky, but it is still, for me, it has to be business, personal brand related.
Absolutely. And I always say the so what question as well. And Claire Clifford, who came on and did a previous LinkedIn LoveIn all about content. I mean, the real sort of light bulb for me is that it's about having context and purpose. It's like you say, why are you posting it? And it's not just about posting for the sake of it, just to get lots of likes, because that doesn't get you anywhere. That's a social media thing. And I think that's what the bad side of social media is, because suddenly we haven't got 50,000 likes and we're all going, no, nobody loves me. We're here for a purpose, and it's not about that. It's about talking to your audience. And, you could have, as other people have said to me, what would you rather have? 100 likes and no business, or 10 likes and 2 people coming saying, can they work with you? Which is what a lot of my clients have said. They don't seem to get that much engagement on their posts, but what they do get is business from it. So what would you prefer? And I think that's what I don't like about the stuff coming over from Facebook, because from what I understand about Facebook, that's the negative side, and why people are leaving Facebook. I could be wrong. I'm not a Facebook person, so I'll just stay on LinkedIn and forget about Facebook.
It's knowing your audience and having a strategy as well. And I think this is where, I'm sure this is something you talk to your clients about, but not just that scattergun approach, but having a strategy so that you are telling a story that you have your values that you want to share, that you have your key behaviors. It might be that you have testimonials, it might be that you have case studies that showcase your work, but you share it in a way that it is as a story. I mean, I'm a big believer in telling stories. I'm a big, because it brings it to life, doesn't it?
It does.
But also a great image as well. So, you know, professional images. That's another thing that, you know, we're talking about content here, but from a profile point of view, and I know we've laughed about this before, but I can remember a few years ago now working with a recruitment consultant, and he came to me and he said, Deborah, I want to change. Everybody has this perception of recruitment consultants that we do all our business in the bar over a glass of wine. He said, we're really serious business people, serious professionals, and we're getting a bad rap. So I said, okay, no problem at all. We can work on that. And I went on his profile, and his profile photograph was him on a balcony on holiday with his sunglasses on and a glass of champagne.
Wow,
and I said, what is that communicating about your personal brand? So it's the little things. It's not, I think there's a perception with personal branding that it's a huge faux pas that people make. So Tiger Woods in the sporting world, but Gerald Ratner, if people are old enough to remember the big jewelry scandal many years ago. It's not often a big mistake like that. It's just little nuances, little behaviors that can undermine your brand, that undermine that consistency. So often it's putting a post out there and it might get some engagement, so people comment, but not bothering to engage with those comments. What does that say? That looks, I mean, you know, would you walk into a networking room and shout something to the room and then not engage with those people? You know, that to me communicates either not got enough time or aloofness or not interested.
And they're not.
So
And to me, yeah, sorry, I'll shut up. Sorry.
go on. No, go on.
No, I was going to say, to me, it shows that they're not on LinkedIn as well, because they posted somewhere else and just left it, and people have engaged, and they're not even on LinkedIn. And I always say it's like seeing somebody in the street, somebody goes hello to you, and you just walk past. So yeah, that's my. Sorry.
Yeah. And also, I would think there is some issue there maybe when people are having content posted for them, so it's not organic. So you can schedule it, schedule it within your strategy, know exactly what it is that you're doing, but make sure that you then revisit it to engage and build those relationships.
100%, 100%, absolutely. I think that's been absolutely amazing. I think it'd be really good to know, Deborah, if people want to work more on their personal branding and how they can improve it and get that clarity and consistency and be communicating it on LinkedIn. How can they get more information from you? How can they work with you?
So I work with people one-to-one. All the information's on my website, which is deborahogden.com. I've mentioned the Impact Club. The Impact Club is a really accessible way to work with me. That's a monthly membership, and we have weekly coaching calls on there. I'm very proud of the community that we've built in the Impact Club. It's so supportive. And on a Monday, you come on the call and you're accountable, and we talk about different impact subjects. So whether that's presenting, content, imposter syndrome, but there's a wealth of information, and not just my expertise but the expertise of the other members. So there's details of that on my website, and also I have a podcast as well, so people you know don't necessarily want to hear me talking about personal branding, but me chatting to my guests about their personal stories and their personal brands. That's, you know, a nice introduction as well. That's called On Brand With, and available on Apple and Spotify. But I'm across all the social media channels. So I'm on LinkedIn, of course, but I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
Lovely. And I will share, obviously I'll be sharing this link out. It's going to stay on my company page anyway, but I'll put the links where people can get to your podcast and also work with you and find out more information. So I think I was just seeing if we had any questions, but I think that could well be it. And I don't know if you've got any sort of last thoughts before we say thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, my thoughts are be authentic,
Love it.
be yourself, own your story, own who you are. Often it's the little nuances that we're self-conscious about that people love about us. So, and you know what? Just do it. Just go out there. That moment when you're hovering, do I share it? Do I not? Because I think every single one of us has been inspired one day by a post that we've read on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever. And that little bit of inspiration, what you share might just be what one person needs that day. And just think of the impact that you're making.
Yes, it's not thinking about you, but thinking about them. And I noticed that Michael Edwards, who we both know from the Northern Affinity, had said, "Just do it." You know, when you were saying about people being afraid to post, just do it.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful, Deborah. I'm sure there is a lot more that people would love to know, that we could talk about this for a lot longer. But they are bite-sized learnings. I hope people have got some ideas and some thoughts. I'd love to get people's feedback. And I'd like to maybe get some ideas from people about what you're going to do differently, having listened to this session. That would be fantastic. So thank you, everybody, for joining Deborah. Sorry.
Judy, can I just add one thing to that? You see, this is where you need me to shut up, but it is about taking the action, because this doesn't happen overnight. So it does take a few months to build that reputation and profile to start now. I'll shut up now.
So Deborah, that's a really good point, and I'm glad you said that. It is about that, isn't it? It's about making a start and beginning to ask those questions and what it is that you want to be known for, rather than people going, you've been known for something you don't want to be known for example. But so thank you so much, Deborah. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. We've had a really good number of people here, and I look forward to hearing everybody's feedback from this session. Bye for now.
Thanks, Judy. Bye.